parents don't get back from the gun club till 9.
I just was playing because I love the game. Like, and it's scary to me.
It's really easy for the game to become a job.
Below 6 in his hands, whistle in his mouth.
Man, kids out there playing the game, staying out of trouble, competing. I love it.
Welcome back. I know that after a quiet exit, everybody, all 11 of y'all are probably thinking like, oh, great, here we go, another year-long hiatus. But no, it was just a quick holiday, end of 2024 hiatus, and we are back for season 4. And to jump right into it, there is something that has been bothering me for pretty much the month of December, and I don't understand it. But there apparently seems to be this growing population that is anti-Quinn Ewers, and I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. So we're going to start 2025 off with the QB guru trying to educate me on what is going on with Quinn Ewers hate.
Well, happy January, first off. I would say when people forget where Texas was at when Quinn came in, I think that's very important to keep that in mind. I think the issue is what people have is where Quinn has brought them back to, along with Sark, obviously, but like where they have gotten back to, all of a sudden now people are thinking like, we've always been the 2005 Texas. This is who we are. And if we're not winning, then screw everybody else. Like, and if we're not winning, it's the quarterback's fault. It's like, you can't forget where you were at just a couple of years ago. And you better keep in mind where Quinn brought you. So I do think that, and like, being from Texas, like the type of fans that Texas fans are, like very naive, probably somewhat incompetent, like most fans, honestly. I mean, let's be real here. Like they don't understand what's really going on, like in the grassroots of things, and they quickly forget where they've been. And so I think, but especially with Texas being that it's like up there with your Michigans and those type of places, it's like, we've always been this good. If we're not winning, then it's somebody, we got to point the finger at somebody. And in this case, it's going to be Quinn. And obviously it's ridiculous because it's like, dude, that dude brought you guys back to where you used to be. He at least made you now to the point where people now are back and remembering who Texas was. And that was not the case a few years ago. Quinn's a hell of a quarterback. Did he struggle this year at times? Yeah. So did every quarterback. I mean, would you say those last few games he had were, I mean, obviously the second to last one was an incredible game, but like, was there a stretch there where there's 3 or 4 games where it's like that wasn't the Quinn years that we were thinking? Yeah. I mean, that's honestly, but that goes to say for most of the Carson Beck, like most of the quarterback class this year struggled. Like somebody asked me the other day, like, who are you taking first? I'm like, if you would ask me 3 weeks ago, I would have had one answer. 5 weeks before that, a different answer. Like they've all struggled. But in regards to Quinn, like I don't understand. It's just a bunch of naive, incompetent people having to have someone to point the finger at, and it's either going to be Sark or it's going to be Quinn. Just like it is with every team. It's going to be the quarterback or it's going to be the head coach, one or the other.
100%. And that's the thing that bothers me is that, you go back to Texas football, 2019, which was Herman's second to last year, 8-5.
Mm-hmm.
Not to the University of Texas standard.
Right.
2020, Herman's last year, 7-3. Not to they finished 19th in the AP. They didn't win the Big 12. They lost. All 3 of their losses were Big 12 games. 2021
in the Big 12 too, by the way, not the SEC.
And okay, you just couldn't hold that one in. Then Sark's first year, he's going through there's a roster transition. Clearly, they go 5-7. Yeah. Everybody's like, "Oh, we're going to fire him after 1 year." Thankfully, they don't. They go 8-5. They finish in the top 25. Then in 23, they go 12-2. They finish 6th.
Yeah.
Okay. On computer rankings, and they finish 3rd in the AP.
Yep.
And then this year, they go into the semis in 4th, and they're probably going to finish the year at 3 or 4. So, and all the while, Quinn Ewers has started for 3 years. He I wouldn't say split time, but Hudson Card played quite a bit in 22. It was his job in
Mm-hmm.
23. And let's talk about what he did in 2023 that made everybody think like, oh, clearly this guy's going to become, a first round draft pick. 3,500 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. It's not bad. It's almost a 70% completion percentage. So everybody's like, oh, Quinn Ewers, like he's the 5-star everybody thought when he was coming out of Southlake, And then we also have to keep in mind what happened this year. He got hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're playing tough opponents. It's their first full season in the SEC. And how many different coaches who have talked about like conference transition about it's easy to get up for 1 week. It's not easy to get up for 10.
Right.
And they go 13-3. He throws for less than 100. He's within 100 yards of last year's numbers. More touchdowns, more interceptions, yes. But when you look at the games that they struggled, Steve Sarkisian did not hesitate. Like the backbone of that offense is the run game.
Mm-hmm.
It was very clear and obvious.
Yeah.
They ran the ball for like 60 yards in the semifinal loss. They struggled to run the ball against Arizona State. You can't be a team that says we are a running team that has a really good quarterback and then not be able to run the ball.
Yeah.
And
I think that's everybody not in the SEC, but in general. Like you're going to win, you got to run 100%. The ball, period.
100%. And it baffles me that these people are like, oh, this guy sucks, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, he just throws the ball up to really good athletes. Got it. That's all he does. The 4th down play against Arizona State that pushes it into overtime and all these things. Go back to that play. The Arizona State coaching staff said it was basically a zero pressure, but they played off, so treat it like quarters and catch. If you watch right before the snap, and this is the thing that pisses me off because people who just say this stuff and they're like, oh, that sounds like a well-educated thought. I have no idea what I'm talking about, so I'm going to listen to this other guy who puts words together. But if you go back and look, right before that play, he walks up to the line. He squeezes the protection. Sark loves 5-man routes. Ewers is kind of on that way too, but he squeezes the protection and forces the pressure, the vacancy to the outside. And all of that offensive line quick sets interior, which allows their best receiver to get isolated on a safety who's sitting on the sticks, and they find the opening. But that play doesn't happen if he doesn't make that adjustment. Mm. And I'm not saying that Arch Manning can't make it. I'm just saying we know he can. So what is the rush? You guys are so caught up in a guy that's a little bit taller, has a little bit cooler last name, and he had that one really good run for a touchdown earlier this year. You guys are so caught up in that. He's a redshirt freshman. Okay? Mm-hmm. Like, everybody needs to chill out. Stop falling in love with the backup quarterback. Like all these uneducated people around the world, you might as well fall in love with the punter because they play about the same amount. We know he's the next man up, so he doesn't make any mistakes because he doesn't. When he goes in, we're already up 70 to whatever against Directional State, and half the stadium's emptied out. But he threw for 3 touchdowns in the second half. No crap. Like, what are we talking about? How is this a real thing? And it blows my mind. Am I saying that Quinn Ewers is top 5 pick, top 10 first round? No, but Quinn Ewers is a good quarterback, and there's not a lot of those out there these days. Because everybody's got to play now, and they, I want to throw the ball 50 times a game, and I got to be all. And you see the decline, general consensus. You see the decline in young quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's a guy that's got an opportunity and has the pieces. And he has the emotional maturity to handle the expectations that would set him up to have a potentially long NFL career. And they're trying to run him out of Austin so fast, and it blows my mind. People talking about like, oh, he's going to jump in the portal and get $6 million to go play at Oregon. Why? Like, what does that do for his game? He's going to go out and play a schedule that, can't defend that offense, and he's going to throw for a bunch of touchdowns. And I don't know why we're not. It's the 5-star pressure in my mind, right? Mm-hmm. Because none of these things, none of these expectations existed for Colt McCoy when he took over. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's people that couldn't pronounce the school he went to when he signed with Texas. And then all of a sudden, after 3 years of start, he can't win the big game. He can't beat OU and A&M in the same year, or he lets K-State sneak up on him. They can't go undefeated. All these things. And it's like, guys, you may not win a national championship every year, but that doesn't mean that your quarterback needs to be replaced, because the day Colt McCoy left, they were in purgatory until Ellinger got there.
Sure, they were.
All right,
they
rant
were.
over.
No, it's. I mean, again, at the end of the day, we're talking about a team that just played in the semifinals, and to me, unless you're Trent Dilfer and you're being carried by the Ravens defense, like, you got there because you have a good quarterback. Period. Like, if you're making it that far, it's because you got a quarterback. Like, whether it's high school or college or NFL, if you're even in the big time game, it's probably because you got a really good quarterback. Period. And whether he gets it done or not, it's not the case. I mean, I get it. Everyone wants to get it done, but like, you're there. Like, I mean, yeah, the team. I get it, but you're there because you got a quarterback, and I'll believe that until the day I die.
1,000%. And I just hope that, like, it's the short-sightedness of, like, modern day sports. Of like, well, we drafted this guy last year. Why is he not in the Pro Bowl? Why is he not, a 1,000-yard receiver? Why is he not?
Because he's a child. Because
exactly,
he's still a child.
Because he's 20, because he reclassified, he enrolled early, he did these things, et cetera, like, he's a baby. Like,
right.
And to me, the perfect example of, like, how important, not just you have to be able to identify the ability, but then you have to foster the ability, because, I mean, look at our boy Baker Mayfield. Mm-hmm. He's on, is Tampa Bay his 5th team?
I mean,
Cleveland, Carolina,
for sure more than number
LA,
one.
right? Yeah. For a top 10 pick, top whatever he was, right? And for a guy that after when he left Cleveland, they wrote him off, and then you get in the right environment, and now he's playoff bound quarterback, and that's not even peeling back the layers of, like, being the walk on and doing all those things he did at Tech, and then he went to OU and all these things. Like, to me, that's the perfect example of, you guys don't know what the heck you're talking about.
No.
And you just see somebody in front of a microphone that puts words together that convince you of something, and you're not going to follow up on it. You're not going to double check or fact check. You're not going to watch the freaking game yourself, because who can watch 3.5 hours of a Texas game as a diehard Texas fan? Who's got time to do that? So
all the opinions come from people that are outside the greenhouse, and not from the person that's actually watering. And it's like, until you're the person that's watering it and you're inside that greenhouse, like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You can speculate all you want, but you don't know what you're talking about. And
the last thing I'll say on this before we need to move on is the amount of information, the little amount of information it takes for somebody to be more educated than 99% of the general football fan population. It's so low, it's borderline embarrassing. Right? Like, John Gruden's pivot to, like, joining Barstool, and, like, he's out there doing this stuff and whatnot. And even people have commented on, like, how the Tony Romo aspect of, like, commentating, like, guys, what you don't understand, Tony Romo's great. He was a great quarterback, and he's great at what he does now. John Gruden, phenomenal coach, right? John Gruden's not the only person who could do those type of things. He's just the only person who's choosing to explore that avenue right now. Tony Romo's not the only former player that could make that type of analysis about, hey, this is probably what they're going to call here, and hey, watch what he does when you hear kill. It's probably going to be a run to this side, etc. He's not the only person that can do that. He's just the only person that's choosing to. And the fact that you don't recognize how big the population of people is that could do those things, it just tells me how uneducated you are. So,
agreed.
But not the people that listen to us. They obviously know what they're talking about, and they know who they're listening to and what they should be listening to, because, they subscribe to this podcast.
Good for you guys.
So anyway, pivot. Same avenue, slight pivot. Ohio State, national championship versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame, for the first time this year, got the monkey off their back. They won a BCS or playoff game for the first time in the history of their school. And then they did it again. Then they did it again. So Ohio State, Notre Dame, national championship. What is your take on the game?
Are you asking who I think is going to win, or just the matchup in general?
I was going to start with the matchup, and then I was going to organically be like, well, with all that being said, who do you think is going to win? But, since you just – yes, I want the answer to both questions.
I think Ohio State's going to win. Do you differ from that?
I'm pretty confident Ohio State's going to win the game. The way that they were able to close out Texas in the second half,
there's been 2 to 3 series over the last 2 games they've had that to me has looked off of rhythm. To me, that's very, very impressive. Very, very impressive. I mean, you have 2 to 3 series over the course of 2 or 3 games, and you're not in rhythm, and the rest of them you're in rhythm. That's a big deal. To me, how they've looked offensively has been spectacular. I think Will Howard's playing so good. He's doing everything from ripping a one ball to the opposite numbers to his layer throws and all the cell routes are so beautiful. And Chip Kelly's freaking dialing them up right now. And then, I'm not a defensive guy, obviously, but you're just looking at it from a fan perspective. Do they fly around? You first saw it, the Tennessee game. My father-in-law is a big-time ball fan, and so we're obviously watching that game. And, it's anything. If you're talking to somebody from the North and they're talking about how proud they are from the North, and you're from the South, you're naturally going to be like, well, I'm proud from the South. You talk to somebody that's like, hey, I'm proud from the Big Ten, then deep down inside you say, well, I'm proud I'm in the SEC. That's just how human nature is, right?
Yeah, so because Will Howard cut his teeth in the Big 12, and that's why he's playing in the national championship. I just wanted to make sure that we got that in there since you brought it up.
Yeah, well, you left it for a reason. Anyway,
okay.
And so we're obviously watching the game with great anticipation, rooting for SEC. And I just remember the first couple of series in the Tennessee game, how downhill that defense was, and how SEC how 3 year ago Alabama, they looked like just boom, boom, coming downhill, and the energy from the sideline that was reciprocated. I quickly was like, oh, this is a game over already. Dang it. And they've kept that up the last few weeks. And so I think Notre Dame's in that too. It just looks different from Ohio State. I think it's going to be a good matchup. I've met Marcus Freeman. He came and recruited some of our kids here. And what a genuine guy he is. He's awesome. But and I'm excited obviously for him, but I think Ohio State they're on a different level right now.
That's the hard part. I think when you compare rosters, I think Ohio State's that's what gives me the confidence, top to bottom, it's been thrown out this season. It's the best roster money can buy, right? This was their NIL for a natty or bust, right? Yep. But I have to be honest. He'll never see this. They'll never see this. The thing that makes it the emotional part that makes it hard is Marcus Freeman. Never heard a bad word about him. Never seen a bad moment from him. I've seen when he got the job and how excited the locker room got and how happy they were and how much those kids rallied around him, right? And the fact that he parlayed that opportunity into continued growth and success at a place where some years they have very unrealistic expectations. I'm a huge Marcus Freeman fan. Kind of hate Ryan Day and Chip Kelly. Kind of don't like them at all. And them losing to Michigan was really funny to me. And I laughed hysterically. But for whatever reason, I think the Michigan game flipped a switch. Or maybe they were playing chess and not checkers. They didn't want to play in a Big Ten championship game and they knew that they were going to make the playoffs anyway. Whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But not a huge fan of those two people. Huge fan of Marcus Freeman. Just understanding that Notre Dame's defense is good. I think that there's a lot of star power over there, and I think they make a lot of plays, and they've put them in situations to continue this run that they've been on. Yeah. But as good as their defensive lineup is how good, if not better, Ohio State's entire lineup is. And I hate it for the person, not the players. I hate it for the person that's the head coach, because I am not a Ryan Day fan. I am at all. And Chip Kelly, like, you know, hearing the stories of like how he treated guys when he was at the Eagles and Shady McCoy, and like breaking up like that all-star cast of like talent on the offensive side because he wanted to bring in his guys. Like, it's just so ignorant and like whatever. Right. But at the end of the day, those kids are going to step out on the field. And as much as I like Marcus Freeman, it ain't going to make them any better.
Right. Yeah. That's from Caleb Downs to Jeremiah, like, dude, they're so good. They're so good. And they're so multiple as well. The two-headed running back they have going right now is also unbelievable. To the point, again, it's like, got to be able to run the ball, and they can run the hell out of the ball. Dude, they're so good. I do think Notre Dame's really good. I like Riley Leonard. I think he's obviously a competitor. Heck of a basketball player, by the way, too. He is. You seen his highlights, dude? He is a freak. Yeah. And I think obviously that'll carry him a long ways as well. But I don't think they can match up with Ohio State the way they're rolling right now. They're on a different level.
Which, time out on this talk, because you brought it up. Riley Leonard, multi-sport athlete. I think this would be a great year leading into the game if they went down and they went roster for. They're probably at AFCA doing it right now. Like, hey, multi-sport athletes, look at this. Mm-hmm. Like, specialized training is important for the skill, but it's not important to specialize on the sport. Like, multi-sport athletes are the most successful consistently. Like, the numbers don't lie. It's been like that for decades. So make sure that that's the message that's being preached on your staff and your community. Time back in. I 100% agree.
Coach, let me
okay,
go ahead.
Time back out.
Yeah, time back out. Okay, so I can tell you from personal experience, when we would have our recruiting meetings at Vanderbilt, like, we would get so excited because we would say, okay, hey, what other sports does he play? And whether it was like baseball, or we were hoping basketball, right? But basketball or whatever, all right, put his highlights up. Like, that was what we were excited to watch. And then, like, any time that he was like, he didn't play anything else, it was kind of like, okay, like, we'll still look at him. You know, obviously we're going to recruit him. We're not going to say screw you, but like, it does make a difference. And like, there is kind of like this subconscious, like, more of a respect for a dude like Riley Leonard that's going to go out there and he's just yamming it on people's heads, and then able to throw a two ball, you know, over the back or between the safety type stuff. Like, that's way more attractive than this dude that, you know, works out every Sunday with another trainer and that's all he does. And he's only a quarterback or he's only a running back, whatever. That's just not as attractive. So for all the youngins out there, go play 7 different sports if you can and be a beast at all of them.
Yeah. Greatest secondary sport highlight tape that I ever personally saw. There's probably others out there. I'm just telling you the one that I saw, and subjective opinion, Kendall Wright's high school, like, highlight basketball tape. Insanity. Absolute insanity. Really? Shooting threes from the timeline, you know, throwing oops, driving the lane, jumping one step inside the free throw line, dunking, just yamming on people. Absolutely absurd. Which a couple months ago ran into Kendall in Pittsburgh. Got to say what's up to him. Shout out Kendall Wright, a GOAT, Baylor legend. Staying on the topic of college football, did you see the Carson Beck quote? I think in the last week or two.
I don't know.
So I think it was a couple weeks ago. I think it was leading up to the Texas game, because it was leading up to. They were asking him about the Texas A&M game and it being on TV, this, that, and the other. And they're like, did you watching that game, did it get you excited as far as seeing some of the things that Texas was able to do or Texas A&M was able to do and have success and this, that, and the other? And his response was, I don't like watching football because it stresses me out.
I saw that.
My opinion is going to stay over here. I'm going to lock it in. I'm going to let you go first. I got a lot of thoughts on this. Shocker. I got a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that response by former QB1 of the Georgia Bulldogs, Carson Beck.
I mean, personally, I think it's odd. Isn't Bo Jackson the same? Like, I don't think he said it stresses him out. I don't think he just watches ball in general. He's a different cat. My point is, like, there's people like that I know of. To me, I kind of look at things from like a recruiting perspective. So if I'm recruiting a kid and I hear that, to me, that's very odd. That's a little bit, that's unattractive to me. Um, I mean, I get it if you're like constantly, you're in it. And what coverage was that? Three boundary, three boundary backer? Like, um, but you should also be able to like, kind of like take that switch off and be able to like to watch it as a fan a little bit and enjoy the game, like because you love the game. Like you don't always have to watch it and be able to know if it's under G, over G, tight. Like who, like to me, you should be able to like watch the game. So like that was kind of like either all right, you're doing too much, or like okay, maybe you're a little bit of an odd duck here. Which either way, I don't like. So that's a turn off for me.
Yeah. And here's my thing is that like if I can watch Peyton and Eli Manning do the Manning cast, where like they're watching the game and Peyton jumps in and out of it, right? He jumps in and out. He's like, "Oh, what are we doing here? What kind of check is that?" Like, and he just starts being hypercritical of whoever's on the field or whoever's calling the plays, and then immediately jump out of it and talk about a story with Bill Belichick about 2013 week 7 when this happened and like what happened to y'all's meal at the hotel, blah blah blah, right? If Peyton Manning can turn it off, like let me walk you through my perception of it. There's only one of two options. You orchestrated that answer to try and make it sound like you to oversell how much you do to prepare.
Yeah.
Which pisses me off.
Mm-hmm.
Or you genuinely feel that way, which pisses me off. Like, even if you don't sit down and watch TV angle like games, like learn how to carry yourself. That doesn't mean that you don't like you. Obviously, you're supposed to love watching football. Mm-hmm. Just because it might add stress to the situation doesn't mean that like, oh, well, I just don't do it. Like if I didn't do all of the things that add stress to my day or my situation, like I would neglect my kids on a regular basis because that's all they do is add stress to my day. But I love them to death. Yeah. So I interact with them and I take them outside. Even though I know that when I turn my head, my 3-year-old's going to run and get in the mud and get mud all over her clothes and her mom's going to get mad at me. I'm well aware that that's a possibility, but I still do it. Like that was just a really stupid answer, in my opinion. I don't know Carson Beck. I'll never know Carson Beck. I'm not saying he's a stupid person. I'm just saying that was a stupid answer. And I used to joke with my buddies in college that didn't play. And I would tell them like, this is why I don't like watching football with civilians, right? You can't see the whole game because it's a TV. You can't fill in the gaps, right? You can't finish the picture without the all 22. And I used to joke with them about that. But that was the thing. It was a joke. Like I would still sit there and watch Sunday Night Football with my buddies, right? Yeah. Because I love the game. And there's probably a fantasy game on the line and this, that, and the other. Like, bro, it's not that deep. All you had to say was that, hey, that's a really storied rivalry and I'm glad it's coming back. And I caught a little bit of the game and, it's exciting to see some of the things that both sides were doing. And we're definitely going to take that into consideration as we prepare. Like just give the non-answer. Don't be an idiot. And, but anyway, I digress. I didn't hold it in very well. I apologize.
That's okay. All right. To pivot again, any movement going on with you this off season? Obviously, this is the time of year for coaches to, if they're looking, if they're not looking, coaches around you, what's going on with you?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. Obviously, I can't speak to other states, but I do feel like the coaching carousel in Texas high school football is just bananas. Because it'll start week 7 and it'll run to May. Right now, the bulk of the work is done December, January. But it's, I started the pursuit for a head job in 2019. So the off season had been just another big season for me in that search. And what was crazy is that I told myself this year I was going to really try and just spend more of my mental energy being where my feet were and locking in. And we had a great year. And because of that, I felt like opportunities came to me instead of me going out and trying to seek them. And since our season ended, was contacted and and kind of approached about a couple different places. And, through the break, had a couple really good conversations. And I have just recently started at what will be my second head coaching job at Mount Vernon High School, which is just down the road from where we've been. So first things first, I do have to say, absolutely unequivocally, very thankful for Rivercrest taking a chance on, an inexperienced, coordinator that had never been a head coach and giving me my first opportunity. I learned a lot there. I had a conversation with a coaching buddy of mine that because Salina won the state championship this year, they got a 4-star freak athlete quarterback that just as a junior played in the All-American game, which is pretty unheard of. But he asked me, he said, if you just stayed at Salina, do you think you would have the same opportunity that you're about to go into? I said, yeah, probably, but I wouldn't be as good at it. There were things about the job and situations at Rivercrest that have prepared me greatly for this continued path as a head coach and an AD. So we're excited to don the purple and white. It's like I said, it's just right down the road. It's a little bit bigger school, and to me, the really cool part. This is something that's probably only special to me, and people hear it and they're probably like, that's kind of dumb. But Coach Briles was the head coach there in 2019 and 2020. And so now throughout this journey and landing there, I have the privilege and the honor of being able to say that I was the head football coach at a school that Coach Briles was the head football coach at. And, being loosely aware and connected to his path from when he was at Stephenville, kicking the crap out of my high school when I was in elementary, and then getting to play for him at Baylor. This is an opportunity that is very special to me, and I'm really excited for. So we will be Mount Vernon Tigers for the foreseeable future.
Congrats, man. You deserve it. And obviously, you and I have kind of been talking about this for a while now, and so I know that this is something you're excited about and family's excited about. So you deserve it. I'm happy for you.
I appreciate it. We,
yeah, man.
We're going to get the opportunity to build a staff pretty quickly, and I've been able to have some really good conversations about guys coming to join us there. And the great thing about Mount Vernon that I mean, Coach never told me this, but I think he would agree and may have made that more appealing to him when he was jumping on board there, is that the town's hungry to win. It's a stereotype in all the great ways. It's a small town, tight knit community that they, when the football team is good, the economy is good. And, the overall emotional appeal of the town is good, and everything comes up. The academics are better. The basketball program's better. Everything comes up when the football team is good. Mm-hmm. And so we're excited to get out there and get it back returned to that. Cause it's not too long ago that, like I said, Coach Browse was there and Brad Willard took over for him, and they were going, 4 or 5 rounds deep, on a consistent basis. So we're pumped to get back and excited to get to work.
When do you start?
So by the time this comes out, I will already be there. This will be my first week on campus.
Okay.
No downtime for sure. Walking kind of out the metaphorical door of Rivercrest straight into the door at Mount Vernon. Just knowing how much we've got to get done, and you start building those relationships with the kids and kind of implementing the new structure, direction, and discipline of the program. And, we touched on multi-sport athletes, and the great thing is that every player I've ever coached has been a multi-sport athlete because track is mandatory. So congratulations, all Mount Vernon Tigers. You made the track team.
Let's go. Run hard, turn left.
Exactly. Trent Kirkland, world champion hurdler. So if I got any questions, I'm going to send them to you.
Apparently.